Let's talk the club. One more thing, like, subscribe, and share. Come on, let's talk the club. Woo!
Good evening, everybody. Hey, it's Cutler here in the Let's Talk to Cutler broadcast, the Let's Talk to Cutler YouTube channel, the Let's Talk to Cutler virtual book club. It is Thursday, the 10th of August, and I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to be sharing this time with you all. I'm glad to be sharing this time and this space with you all, these 1800 seconds where we try to offer some inspiration and some motivation. And from time to time, we do challenge ourselves to make sure that we've shown up better today than we did yesterday. We challenge ourselves to make sure that we're deliberate and intentional about trying to show up better tomorrow than we did today. And again, I always have to reiterate, that does not mean that today or yesterday was a failure or a flop. By no stretch of the imagination. It simply means that we are conscientious about how we are evolving and how we are growing, and that's what the dynamics of life are all about. It's making sure that you respond in such a way that is positive. You respond in such a way that it places you in a space that's better than you were yesterday. It means that we're ever growing and that we're ever intentional about being our best selves, even in the worst of situations. I don't know about you all, but I really do want to be my best self, even in the worst of situations. Life offers us tests and trials and tribulations and all of those things, but I always want to show up my best self, even in the worst of situations. I want to offer my best self to people. So I'm strategic about that. I'm intentional about making sure that I do that. So that's why we spend these 1800 seconds together, just making sure that we rehearse how to show up our best selves, because I'm not with you all. You're not with me when life happens and when you're in traffic and people just cut you off, or when you're walking out of the store and people let the door slam in your face, or people just do what people do. People are, as the young folks say, people are sometimes peopling. And when people are peopling, you have to say to yourself, oh no, okay, all right, that's a test, and I need to make sure that I pass this test. I need to make sure that I respond appropriately. I need to make sure that my character presents its best self. I need to make sure that my integrity is intact. So that's why we talk for these 1800 seconds each Tuesday and Thursday. And so we're going to talk again today about, when is the friendship over? When is the friendship over? One of the things my mother always made sure I understand was that you don't just have to let anybody in your life. Neither should you put yourself off on people. And I've always been aware of that. I've always been aware about the people that I let in my life, and I've always been aware about the people whose lives I would like to enter. And so she always taught me, you don't put yourself off on people, and you don't let people put themselves off on you. So we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about it because I read something today that really just reminded me of that. It was a quote that one of my former students posted on social media. It said, learn your place in people's lives so that you don't overplay your part or overstay your welcome. The quote said, learn your place in people's lives so that you don't overplay your part or overstay your welcome. That's, as some of my Southern folk would say, that's some good talking. I'll get back to that in just a moment, but I do want to shout out the LTTC VIPs, the people who jumped over in the chat first. So if you're in the chat, say hello to everybody, and please know that I'm going to shout you all out. I'm going to shout out the people that I first saw jumping into the chat from my end. So don't you all get upset with me. I'm just talking about the people that I see from my end, from my perspective. All right. And the LTTC VIPs that I see first in the chat this evening are Hattie Boone, Sonia Bailey, and Annie Cutler. And why don't you all tell people, come on, let's talk to Cutler. If this is your first time or you're stopping by, go ahead and subscribe. And once you do, click on the notification bell down there. It lets you know whenever I've gone live and whenever I've uploaded new content. But for the evening, let's just go ahead and jump into this. Let's go ahead and get started talking. I would never, I would say never, but set your boundaries. Let's see. Amen. So you all are chatting already, talking about don't put yourself off on people, don't let people put themselves off on you. I'm telling you, my mother taught me that because you all probably know that there are people and you see them and there's something about them that magnetizes you to them, that attracts you to them, and for whatever reason you may want to be a part of their lives, but they don't seem receptive. They don't seem open to that notion, and you have to make sure that you are not offended by their behavior. So you just make sure that you don't put yourself off on people. You just don't do it. And the same way you don't put yourself off on people, you don't let people put themselves off on you. You don't have to let everybody in your life who knocks on the door. Oh God, you don't have to let everybody into your life who knocks on your door. Sometimes we find ourselves in a quandary, in a conniption, because we've allowed people to come into our lives when we really didn't want them there in the first place, but we felt out of obligation, I need to let them in. I ought to let them in for whatever reason. Who said you have to let people into your life just because they knock on your door? You don't. Calm down and slow down. But you don't have to let everybody in your life. You just don't. How many of us can really say that we've gotten in trouble because there are some people that we've let into our lives who really didn't deserve to be there or who really didn't need to be there? Be careful about the people that you let into your life. And sometimes people will overstay their welcome. And that's what I want to talk about. Again, I want to get back to that quote. Learn your place in people's lives so that you don't overplay your part or overstay your welcome. Sometimes when we are in people, think about this. Sometimes when we are in people's lives, you want to do X, Y, Z. In fact, you want to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and you're really only there to do E. So don't overplay your role. Don't overplay your part and don't overstay your welcome. Neither should you allow people to do that in your lives. Maybe you ask people to help you with one thing and they want to help you with 25. I don't need your help with 25. I need your help with one. I'm good with the other 24. And Cutler, why are you saying that? I'm saying that so that we can be at peace, because remember, we are in our lives, we're building this peaceful home, this peaceful habitation, this peaceful place. And I've said this 25,000 times, everybody's brick does not fit the foundation of the house that you're trying to build. Or maybe their brick is very specific in its function and its functionality in your lives. So let's talk about it. Let's get into it. Some weeks ago, I just say no. I have a 3-day law. I live in a beautiful beach town, but yes, can only stay three days because I want to deal with this. Well, it was last month now. I had my a significant high school class reunion, and I saw lots of friends from the past. I mean, people. Just when I saw them, they just conjured up wonderful thoughts and wonderful emotions and wonderful memories. But we are no longer we are cordial, and I'm certainly not enemies with them, but they are not necessarily the friends that they were 40 years ago. Sometimes you have to learn that life moves on, and you have to just go with the tides and the flows and the ebbs and the tides of life. You just have to, for whatever reason. So let's look at this thing. Let's see in life, when are some friendships over? Everybody can't stay for the full ride. Everybody can't stay for the full journey. Everybody can't stay for the duration. It might be hard to acknowledge, but there are some times when you just have to cut the friendships, or the friendships are over. The older we get, you all, the older we get, we make new friends, and gradually we drift away from the old ones. It just happens. Yes, there are some people who stick around for years, sometimes even if they aren't good for us. But it can be hard to cut ties. It really can. But there are times when the ties have to be cut. Many friends, as I mentioned, when I thought about my high school friends, many friendships begin in high school or even earlier. But eventually, what happens? They fall apart because of changing attitudes, because of changing life patterns, because of changing dynamics, because of different perspectives, because of different values, because of different morals and different goals in life. Sometimes we fall apart. It happens. And so I want to look at some of these times when it's some of these indicators when it might be time to end a friendship. or it may be time to end a relationship, or it may be time for a friendship to take a different pattern. Why would you say that, Cutler? Because friendships should be based on equality and the expectation of give and take. So sometimes when you realize that people just aren't there for you, it might be time to end that friendship or that relationship or whatever it was when they aren't there for you, when there is no equality, when there is no give and take. Because give and take and equality, that's a component of a healthy relationship. Friendships, you're right, M. Harris, they do change. If a friend repeatedly expects us to be there for them, but doesn't give us anything substantial in return, that could very well be an indicator that the friendship might need to be reevaluated. I'm just trying to help us, you all. I really am. I think I may see a first-time friend in the chat. So you all make sure that you say hello to, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, at Juby Darko. So make sure that you say hello to a new friend in our chat this evening. It's good to see you. Thank you so much for being here this evening. When the friendship is over, and a lot of times, here's something else that happens, and we don't want to acknowledge this, but we know it's true. A lot of times when people talk about you behind your back, it's time to call it quits. Cutler, why would you say that? Because we all get frustrated sometimes, but I'm a firm believer that your friend should come to you with their issues, but not talk badly about you when you're not around. I just don't think that should happen. I think that's immature. I think it's unhealthy. And I think that kind of behavior creates drama. And I think it creates awkwardness, particularly in a group when you have friends in common. Maybe it's time to call that relationship or that friendship quits. And I am a firm believer that we can, if we put our mind to it, I'm a firm believer that we can end some ties amicably. We don't have to we don't have to end some relationships with this acrimonious kind of interaction. We don't have to do that, but we can just call it quits and walk away. I think we can do that. But when people start talking about you, when friends start talking about you behind your back, that creates awkward situations, and it's time to just cut it and let it go. And have you ever had problems? Have you ever had people who have a problem with everything that you do? You can't do anything right. It doesn't matter what I mean, it doesn't matter what you do, what you try to do, but we don't need people who constantly criticize and analyze everything that you do 24/7. When there are people in your life and you feel like you just can't do right by them, they constantly need to talk about you and talk about something that was problematic that you did or something that you said, you feel absolutely exhausted with those kinds of people. When you feel exhausted by all of the energy and the time that you put into listening to their feelings and apologizing over and over and trying to smooth things over. Every time you turn around, you've got to do that. That is what you call somebody who's too high maintenance. I like what you all are saying. Country song that says you find out who your friends are with Tim McGraw, then you feed them with a long handle spoon. Yeah, yeah. And so you learn to handle people from a distance. But think about people. Have you ever encountered people who every time you turn around, they have a problem with what you do, what you say, how you be, how you show up? Maybe time to reevaluate. I'm just offering these as helpful hints and tips for when you might need to reevaluate these friendships. What about when you What about when you feel worse after spending time with people? Have you ever been around somebody and you say to yourself when you leave, I just can't believe I feel worse than I did when I went there. I feel worse now that I spent time with them. Because your friendship should energize you. A friendship should not drain you. And I'm being honest, you all. Friendships should not drain you. They should energize you. Even the friendships that are really serious, when you have heart to heart conversations and you cry together, they really should make you feel a sense of warmth. They should give you a sense of comfort, a sense of peace. When you have heart to heart conversations and those sorts of things, you ought to find peace in the relationship, comfort in the relationship. But when you are drained and you feel worse after having spent time with people, it may be time to reevaluate that friendship. It may be time to reevaluate the relationship. I'm just saying, as the young folk would say, they'd go hashtag IJS. And then what about the people? I only have 1,800 seconds. So I need to keep going, y'all, because this one right here, what I'm about to say, and you all tell me if this rings true for you. Every time you have something, you plan something, you plan an event, you plan a gathering, you host something at your house, you have people who cancel all the time. Cancel all the time. They never can make it. They always have a reason. They always have an excuse. They can never make it to anything. But when they have something, their expectation is that you will show up. That's just flaky. I think the other word the young people would call is shady. But that's just flaky. People who cancel all the time, they cancel at the last minute. It doesn't matter what plans you've made. Every time you turn around, they cancel. I had a friend like that. She would cancel all the time. She just wouldn't show up. And sometimes she just didn't show up and she wouldn't call me and tell me she wasn't showing up. She would at the next event and she just would not show up. And that shouldn't be the case. You should not feel as though you have to pull teeth to maintain a relationship with people. I'm not a dentist, and even if I were, I'm not pulling teeth to maintain a relationship with somebody that I consider a friend. That requires too much work. People who cancel on you all the time because this shows that the person who you consider a friend, it shows that oh my God, Marissa, you said you have those. Let's see. Let me put my glasses back on. Eric said rude and a bit disrespectful. Absolutely. They're just canceling, just canceling, just canceling. They don't show up. And because what does that show? It shows that they don't respect you, they don't respect your time, and you are no longer a priority in their lives. I'm just offering us. I'm just offering us a moment to reevaluate and re-examine and reassess the people in our lives, the people in our village, the people in our tribe, the people in our social circle. I'm just suggesting that we reevaluate because perhaps it's time once again to do inventory. I feel worse after I spend time with you. You always canceling whenever I invite you to something, you don't show up. No. Just reevaluate because you have to say to yourself, I am worth more than that. And when I talk about inspiration and motivation and challenging, here is the inspirational piece. You have to say to yourself, I'm worth more than that. I'm worth more than allowing myself to be tormented by this thing that I call a friendship or relationship. What it really is a quasi relationship. Quasi mean not real. It looks like it. So on the outside, in some form of functionality, it looks like it, but it's just a quasi relationship. So when people don't respect you, they don't respect your time, and you obviously appear as no longer priority. You might want to reevaluate that. And this is one. So when I talked about my high school friends from time from days gone by, the reason some of us don't maintain relationships and friendships with people from our past is because you only have the past in common. It was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful for me to see my friends from many, many years ago. I haven't maintained a relationship with all of them because one of the things that for in some instances, the only thing that we have in common is the past. McDonough, you're right. I had to learn the hard way. Seems as if the person doesn't value your time, that person doesn't receive any additional invites. You're right. I had to learn to just cut people off and just say, nope, absolutely not. I'm worth more than that. I'm not going through that self-torture. Yes, I want you there. I want you around me. But you know what? If you don't value me, value my time, or respect my time, and I'm no longer priority, guess what? I just need to say, Cutler, you're worth more than that, and keep on going. But think about the situations think about the situations where you only have the past in common. Friends that you've had for a long time, they're the hardest to say goodbye to because you do have the past in common. But if the past is the only thing that you have in common, it might be time to move on. Sometimes we feel like we have nothing in common other than shared history. And that is not how I interact with my friends. I have more than past history in common. I want to talk about my future. I want to talk about where I'm going. I want to talk about my hopes. I want to talk about my dreams. I want to talk about my aspirations. I want to talk about my goals, my ambitions. I want to talk about all of that, and I want to have that in common. I want to commit myself to new ways of connecting and new ways of thinking and new ways of seeing things. And I want friends who are on that same trajectory. Because at some point, if the past is the only thing that we have in common, every time we get together, it would be a struggle to just recollect, for recollection, remembrance, and recalling. And at some point, regurgitating. And you want more than that. You want more than that. And if the past is the only thing that you have in common, you may just want to reclassify them, recategorize them, and say, well, you know what? Yeah, I will. I still consider them a friend, but not a current friend. Not a friend who's on the path of where I'm going now, but just a friend from the past. And here's another one, you all. I just need to say this because sometimes we have people in our lives, and you all know this to be true. We have people in our lives who we just don't trust. Oh God, Cutler, did you really say that? Yeah, I said it. I said it because there are times when we keep people in our lives out of obligation. You feel like I have to keep you there out of obligation, but trust is the foundation of any friendship. It really is the foundation of any relationship. And if you can't trust your friends, you likely don't have a healthy relationship. You don't have a, excuse me, you don't have a healthy friendship. You have to think about it. You have people, and to some degree, there's some level of distrust, mistrust, untrust. And I'm just throwing these prefixes out there because I want you to get it. Miss, dis, and untrust. I mean, you know there's some level, and you may not even have a friend. So I want to talk about the acquaintances who are in our lives, and we don't trust them. I'm not to say that I'm not just saying that we should invariably cut people out of our lives if we have just a little bit of a little lack of trust, but I'm saying we really need to think about that, because how far can that relationship go? How far can that relationship go when you don't trust people? You have people in your circle, in your space, in your life, and you don't trust them. Oh Lord. And you just allow them to hang around. Sometimes the friendship is over, the relationship is over. It's good to see you, my friend. Auntie's advice. It's so good to see you. And here's another time when you just may want to say, okay, the relationship is over, the friendship is over. It's time to move on. No harm, no foul. When they want you to be someone else. Peer pressure. Peer pressure just doesn't apply to adolescents and young high school children. It doesn't. Sometimes grown folk, adults, can pressure people to do things that they are not comfortable with. Cutler, really? Yes, really. Absolutely. Yes, really. There are times when people want you to hold viewpoints or ideals that really aren't your own. They want you to behave in a way that simply does not feel organic or authentic to you. So if you have a person in your life who isn't respecting your own values, the way you show up, the way you be, your needs, if they don't respect that, it might be worth investing in some new friendships. That's all I'm saying. I just want to peel the layer back on these onions of the people who are in our lives, and give us the opportunity to take off the blinders and look and say, okay, let me evaluate who these people are in my life. And then you have to say to yourself, and I know I'm moving, but you have to say to yourself, wow, here are people who in my life. Let me make sure that I show up very authentically in other people's lives. Let me make sure I show up organically in other people's lives. Let me make sure I know my role in their lives so that I don't try to overplay my role or overstay my welcome in their lives. So the same way we think about how people act in our lives, we have to think, how do I function? How do I act in the lives of my friends? Do I expect them to be someone else? Can they trust me? Do we have more in common than the past? Do I cancel on them? Do I never show up when they need me? Do they feel worse after they spend time with me? Am I very critical of what they do, what they say, how they show up, how they be? Do I have a problem with everything that they do? Do I talk about them behind their back? Am I there for them? So as I'm thinking about the people in my lives, I'm also thinking about how I show up in other people's lives as well, you all, because this is about this thing is reciprocal. As I'm looking at how they show up in my lives, I'm wondering how I show up in their lives, and I have to do an honest evaluation. So when I talk about this channel, this platform is about inspiration and motivation, but it's also about challenging us to show up our best selves, even in the worst of situations. We have to challenge ourselves. I need to show up my best selves in the lives of my friends. I need them to know that I am a friend of theirs. I need them to know that I have their back. I need them to know that I have their best interest at heart. I wrote this prose some time ago because I'm from the South, and it says what country boys are doing. And the very last piece of that prose said one of the things that country boys are doing is making sure that the people they love know that they love them. And that's how you have to carry yourself when you're a friend. Don't let people in your lives and you can't trust them. Don't let people in your lives and they want you to be somebody else. And here's when you when you can tell. And I'm just rushing through this because I want us to get it because I'm only here for 1800 seconds, you all. So you got to tell people, Lord, the man is up there talking about stuff. So come on and let's talk to Cutler. He shows up every Tuesday and Thursday for 1800 seconds. Every now and then he might give us 1805 seconds, but show up. But what about when you spend a lot of time venting about your friends? Lord help us. What happens when you spend a lot of time venting about that friend? If you're spending a lot of time talking about and venting about a friend to other friends, that friendship is probably taking more energy from you than it's worth. Do I need to say that again? If you're spending a lot of time talking about and venting about a friend to your other friends, then that friendship is probably taking more energy than it's worth. You spend a lot of time venting. No, 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 no. It's probably taking more energy from your life than it's worth. And a lot of times, I have to go with this one, you all. A lot of times, you may want to reevaluate whether it's time to get rid of that friend or cut the friendship off or cut the relationship off. I'm just offering us times when I'm offering us evaluation tools. That's what I'm doing. What about when you feel obligated to meet up? Have you been friends since have you been friends since childhood and you feel guilty about letting the friends go? Okay, so now you just feel obligated. Do you feel like you need to stay friends just to have friends in your life? Okay, now you feel obligated. These are not good reasons for friendships, you all. Friendships should be fun, not like a job. Not to say that some of us don't enjoy our jobs, and I'm just saying this. Friendships should be fun and not feel like a job. I get it. We grow in those first years. We're growing together and we're getting to know each other's values and those things. But at some point, the friendship should not be out of obligation. It should be fun. And then I have to go. I've got to get out of here because this is critical. This is critical. When you don't share the same values, every relationship involves compromise, even friendships. Every every relationship involves compromise, even friendships. But if your values are different, it might be time to end the friendship and move on. If what's important to you is different from the other person, it might be time to move on. If you don't see life through the same or similar lens, it might be time to move on. And from a very practical point, what are you saying, Color? I'm saying in situations where, for example, if being kind to others is important to you, but your friends constantly talk down to people and they're not courteous, you don't share the same values. To you, for you, it's important to treat people kind and with courtesy and with respect, but they are comfortable talking down to people and disrespecting people. There's no congruence there. There's no parallelism there at all. There's no similarity there at all. It just might be time to reevaluate that friendship. I, I've come here this evening just to offer us tools for how to evaluate when it may be time for the friendship to be over. So, my friend Auntie, you said it's an interesting title. Yeah, I wanted to offer tools for us to evaluate the relationships that we have in our lives. Because at some point in life, I believe in healthy relationships. Sometimes we string people along and we've been strung along, and you say, I don't deserve that. And other people don't deserve that. So I'm offering us tools of how to evaluate when it may be time for a relationship to end, for a friendship to just dissolve. And I'm offering this so that we can do it amicably, so that we can do it in a healthy way. So that if I ever see this person again, I can certainly shake your hand and smile, embrace you, and just say, hi, how are you? And there's no animosity. There's nothing acrimonious about our interaction whatsoever. May I say thank you all for joining me and allowing me to share whatever space to come into, whatever space you've allowed me to come into. Thank you all so very much. It is always a pleasure. It is always an honor to share this time with you, these 1800 seconds. Do me a favor, you all. Let's keep doing what we do. Let's keep building community. Let's keep doing that. Let's keep our heads up. Let's keep our hopes up. Let's stay safe. Let's stay sane. And know this, that from my heart to yours, there is and always will be so much love. Listen, I hope that you all have a fantastic weekend. Until the next time we talk, make sure that you tell somebody, come on and let's talk to Cutler. All right, take care. Have a great evening.